understand that you are looking for some advice for your fantasy football team this year. Is that correct? Okay, wonderful. You've come to the right person. I have a few questions first, of course, just to sort of establish what I'm working with. Is that all right? Okay, so firstly, how much experience do you have with fantasy football? A little bit of experience, okay? You've played a few times in the past, but you're just coming back to it. Is that an accurate description? Wonderful. Okay, so my second question is do you know what format your league is using this year? Half PPR. Okay. An excellent choice, if I do say so myself. Most of my leagues are half PPR as well, so we can work with that. How many members are in your league? 12. Okay. 12 members. And do you know what pick you have this year? Have you decided a draft order? Pick number 6. Alright. I actually really like the 6th pick this year. The mid, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7, I think is a really good range to be drafting from. I had the 5th pick in my primary league this year. Of course, I've got some dynasty leagues and some other stuff that, doesn't really matter where I pick because obviously it's different formats, but really like the 6th pick. You've got something very solid here. Now, what is the player distribution looking like? Have they made any alterations there, or is it just a pretty standard roster that you're looking for? Okay, nothing special. So I assume it's something like this. Quarterback. Hang on a moment. Having some difficulties with my marker. Quarterback. 2 running backs. So running back. Running back. 2 wide receivers. A tight end. A flex. And 6 bench players. I assume that's usually pretty standard as well. Okay, sounds good to me. So we're not gonna focus on bench right now, but let's talk the first 4 rounds of the draft. So I am fully of the belief that the first 4 rounds of your draft are really going to decide, how your team is going to do this year. And I think these are the picks that you really have to nail. And specifically, in my case, I think you should go double running back, double wide receiver in most cases. Specifically emphasizing the running back position this year, I think, is crucial. And specifically because there's just so few and far between, right, with the running back position of truly elite players. It's not like it was 10 years ago where just, bell cows all over the place and you could get some serious value later on. We're seeing teams these days really like to do the by committee thing. A lot of teams are splitting the workload with their running backs, but there are definitely some out there where that is not quite the case. But at the 6th pick, obviously, you're going to be missing out on the top 2 running backs who I expect will be going very early on in your draft as well. That, of course, being Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. But with your first round pick, there's still some very valuable options I think you can come across there, such as Jonathan Taylor, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jackson Smith and Jigba would be the top few. Maybe you could get lucky and a Puka Nakua or a Jamar Chase is there. Maybe, if you're not too concerned about the quarterback situation, you could maybe also pivot for Justin Jefferson if you so wish. But the three that I would be looking at in this position with the sixth pick are, as I stated before, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jonathan Taylor. So, of those three, are you leaning any particular way? Okay, Jonathan Taylor. That is an excellent pick, so let's just put that on our draft board. Jonathan Taylor. Okay. So, with the second pick, I think you have a lot of flexibility in the second round this year. I think there's a tremendous amount of value no matter what it is that you are looking for. Of course, depending on where you draft, things can look very different, but at the sixth pick, I would be looking at A.J. Brown, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, possibly, if you're, willing to bet that he can reproduce his rookie season, but I think that is a bit more of a risk. At least at the sixth pick, if you were maybe picking 11 or 12, Malik Neighbors could possibly move up a little bit there, but you also have the option, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this, of going for Josh Allen or Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, Lamar Jackson, even if you so chose. You do have that option as well, but again, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it just because I think there is, especially at quarterback, a tremendous amount of value later down the board that you just don't have with the running backs or wide receivers in this tier. Of course, you may also have the option of Kenneth Walker, Devon Shawn, someone like that could also realistically be at this spot, of course, depending on how your teammates decide to draft. So, is there anyone in particular that suits your fancy? Drake London. Okay, that is an excellent pick. I think there's a lot of value there. Drake London, great player. Although I don't have enough room to do full names, nearly. So, Drake London is our second round selection. Now, because you went wide receiver on the second round, I would strongly advise going running back in the third round, just because I think it's very important, in my opinion. Of course, you don't have to agree necessarily. I think it's very important this year to have a star-studded running back roster, and you've got some options here in the third round. You've got Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, or I believe he says you pronounce that differently now. I think it's something like Echan or something. I'm not quite up with the particulars in that regard, but again, I would strongly advise going for a second running back, especially because I think running backs are going to really go this year in the draft. In the drafts that I've done this year, I've done 3 or 4 now. Running backs really start to disappear around the 4th and 5th round, and I don't think you want to get caught up in the drop off there. So, of those 3, what are you thinking? Kenneth Walker. All right, that is a great selection as well. Super Bowl MVP last year, Kenneth Walker. Now on the Chiefs, who I think are going to be running the ball a lot this year. So when we get now to the 4th round, this is where things can really open up for you, right? This is where you can really start to move around the board a little bit. You have some more options in terms of positions, right? So looking at it, this could be a Joe Burrow, a Drake May, Tyler Warren, perhaps Colston Loveland, if that's more your thing. You've also got Quinshon Judkins, Bucky Irving for running backs. Maybe, you know, you could also maybe still get Travis Etienne here, but I wouldn't bank on that. Say Flowers could be an option for you. Jalen Waddle, something like that. What are you thinking? Do you want to go quarterback? Drake May. All right. I don't think that's the worst option in the world. I typically don't. And again, I don't know what it is about the name Drake, but um, I typically don't go for quarterbacks all that often before round 7, just because I think there's a lot of value, to be had later on in the draft. But I won't stop you from doing what you want to do. So round 6, what is it that you are looking for? Round 6, you've got round 5. Goodness me. Round 5, you've got maybe a Tyler Warren, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Jadarian Price, the rookie running back in Seattle that they drafted to replace Kenneth Walker, which I like to stay away from rookie running backs, I'll be completely honest with you, but that's just one man's opinion. You've also got maybe Mike Evans, Sam Laporta, Bayshell Tootin, any of those names speaking to you. Tyler Warren, okay, tight end. Tyler Warren. All right, now number 6, round 6. I jumped ahead there a little bit. You've got names like Carnell Tate, Jalen Warren on the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brian Thomas and Parker Washington in Jacksonville, which, it seems like there's not really a consensus there who is going to be the true number 1 in Jacksonville, but it sounds like Brian Thomas is maybe moving down the board a little bit, and Parker Washington might be coming up, so I'd maybe avoid that if I can, just because there is a lot of uncertainty there. You've also got Marvin Harrison, and then a couple of different tight ends here as well, and you could even you could maybe look at like a Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, that kind of thing. So is there a name among those that you're really, really resonating with? Okay, Carnell Tate, a bold strategy to go for a rookie, but I don't hate it. I actually do think Carnell Tate is a great player, and the Titans have needed a wide receiver quite badly in that regard. So moving now to round number 7. This is where maybe you could look for some depth in the running back room. You've also still got names like Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf that are probably still going to be here as well, if that is more your style. But what are you thinking? Running backs, you've got Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, Ramondre Stevenson. You could maybe get Travion Henderson could also maybe be in this range. It's really hard, again, with some of these committee groups to figure out what to do there. But is there anything that you lean towards either way? Tony Pollard, all right, 3 running backs. Tony Pollard out of Tennessee. All right, now we can start talking about the bench, and this is where you can truly go nuts. Of course, we'll get to the defense and the kicker in a little bit, but I personally would prioritize getting as much depth as you can at some of these skill positions. So let's just work on that. let's take a look here. You've got your quarterback, running backs. Running backs, I think, were quite well off in that regard, and we've got two wide receivers as well. I would maybe start looking at some possible depth additions at wide receiver going towards the future. What I personally like to avoid at this stage of the draft is going for a backup tight end and a backup quarterback. Mostly because I feel like if you're drafting a backup quarterback, you're kind of expecting your drafted quarterback to get injured, and that's just not a way that I like to be operating. And the same goes for tight end. If you've drafted well, you're never going to need a second tight end unless, of course, injury happens um, or bye weeks. But having a backup tight end sitting on your bench for 80% of the year just doesn't make a lot of sense to me when you could have, a wide receiver that maybe breaks out and starts putting up solid numbers, or, running back depth, especially, I think is important. I wouldn't want to deal with injuries to running backs, but, it's all up to you. Of course, we are now on round number 8, and I'll be honest with you, things do start to slow down a little bit. You're a little bit less excited about the players that you're going to be seeing here. So let's continue on. In round number 8, you've got guys like Mekhi Lemon, George Kittle, Jonathan Brooks, Kyle Monangai, Dalton Kincaid, Jordan Mason, Blake Corum, Bill Krosky Merritt, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Addison, who I will say, I think Jordan Addison is criminally undervalued right now in fantasy. And I understand the quarterback situation on that team is less than ideal, but Jordan Addison before last season put up 2 top 25 finishes in fantasy, and I think the upside there really, really solid. Just because, with even a semblance of a competent quarterback, I think he can give you, a 25, 30 sort of position, and I think that's pretty valuable to have on your bench, to have a top 30 guy that you can plug and play depending on the matchup. So Jordan Addison would be my recommendation if, of course, that is something you want. But again, you could go for the rookie on Philadelphia. Of course, you do already have another rookie in Carnell Tate, but you could go for Mekhi Lemon if you want. How are you feeling in that regard? Jordan Addison it is. All right. I'm glad I could convince another person to see it the way I do. So, Jordan Addison, welcome to the team. Now, number 9. Again, a lot of these names are going to start, maybe piling together, because this is where a lot of teams are just going to start moving up and down the board. So you could still have, a Blake Corum or a Jonathan Brooks, maybe not Jonathan Brooks, but, Bill Krosky Merritt, Jordan Mason sort of situation going. You could also look to draft the Rams defense if you want, because the Rams defense is super, super high. I would personally avoid it just because I think there are other defenses later that you can get for a similar value. I understand that the hype is there. Aaron Donald's been working out with the team. They got Myles Garrett and all that, but I just don't think it's all that valuable. You've also got Michael Pittman, Jake Ferguson, Aaron Jones, Isaiah Likely. Any of those names really speaking to you? Blake Corum, okay. All right. That can work. Of course, we don't have anyone else to bounce off of here, so we're assuming, of course, that Blake Corum is falling a little bit down the board, and you can snag some extra value there. Looking in round 10, this is where we've got the Seahawks defense, Stephon Diggs, Matthew Golden, the Broncos defense. You've got Romeo Doubs, perhaps, in this range as well. So Is there any specific position you want to go for? Another wide receiver. Okay. Honestly, I really like the idea of getting Michael Pittman. I think Michael Pittman is perhaps a little bit more put together as a wide receiver than DK Metcalf at this point in his career. So I think if you can get Michael Pittman here at this pick, that would be very solid. So, what do you think? Okay, let's do it. Michael Pittman is the pick. Michael Pittman. All right. So coming now to the 11th round again, you've got some repeat names: Romeo Dobbs, Tyrone Tracy, Stephon Diggs. You've also got like the Ravens defense, perhaps. If that's the direction you want to go, maybe the Broncos defense. The Rams and Seahawks are probably gone by now. Um, Anything really speaking to there? Really? Okay. Tyrone Tracy. Um, I don't hate that idea, just because Cam Scatabo is not a guy that I think is really all that high of a ceiling as a player, and there's some health concerns there as well. I think there will definitely be some upside with Tyrone Tracy, so let's put Tyrone Tracy down. Tyrone. Hold on a moment. I keep forgetting. There's not enough space to do full name, so Tyrone Tracy. Okay, so now we're moving into, what is this? 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, round number 12. We've got Woody Marks, Khalil Shakir, Aronde Gadsden, tight end for the LA Chargers, who I think is another one of those guys that's kind of being overlooked widely. I think he could definitely be pretty exciting going into the season. Or, of course, we could switch, maybe try for a Ravens defense, the Vikings defense, the Patriots defense, any of those suit your fancy. Patriots defense. Alright, let's add our defense now. Defense. Patriots. Okay. That works for me. Moving now to the 13th round, we've got a couple of interesting picks down here. If you're looking to go for another rookie that might have some serious upside, Denzel Boston out of Cleveland. I know that quarterback situation is very frightening over there, but Denzel Boston seems to be a guy that is really developing some chemistry with all of the quarterbacks, and seems to be a guy that Todd Monken really likes as well. So that could be an option for sure. Another Cleveland Brown. You've got Dylan Sampson as well. Could be something, especially if there's a injury to Judkins. Tank Bigsby on the Eagles could maybe fill that void as well if if anything happens to Barkley. You've also got let me spin this by you real fast. There is a rookie running back on the Raiders right now that seems to be getting a lot of buzz by the name of Mike Washington. I don't know if you would want to really throw your hat into the ring per se on a rookie running back that is most likely going to be playing backup, but that is definitely an option as well. Of course, there's, like I said before, Woody Marks could be an option. Jalen Coker on the Panthers is a guy that is maybe risen up some boards recently. Jalen Naylor on the Raiders as well. Someone's got to catch passes over there, and this is an area of the draft that can get really, really touch and go. Is just trying to figure out who the wide receiver one is on a team like the Raiders or the Browns or Miami. Just because there's way too many question marks to really know. But if you want to throw your hat into the ring on any of those guys, I don't think it would be the worst something you wanted to do. So, what are you thinking? Okay, you want to gamble on a rookie. All right. Well, you've got Denzel Boston, you've got Mike Washington, you've got maybe a Cyrus Allen or a Caleb Douglas. Okay, Mike Washington. It is. I think that is a solid choice there. Why am I writing full names? Hold on a moment. Forgive me. Mike Washington. All right. And your final bench spot, because I'm going to tell you right now, all right? Unless you're drafting Brandon Aubrey, kicker doesn't mean a whole lot, okay? It is a very fluctuating position year over year, and Brandon Aubrey I don't even think was all that great for fantasy last year, so there is pretty much no need to draft a kicker anywhere before round 15, so let me run a couple of late round flyers for you and see if any of these suit your fancy, of course. You've got Cyrus Allen, who I mentioned before, Marshawn Lloyd on the Packers, A.J. Barner. If you do want to get a backup tight end, A.J. Barner on the Seahawks, I think could have a good year. Gunnar Helm on the Titans is another one that I would look to in that regard. Keyshawn Boutte, who was just traded to the Houston Texans and is likely going to fill that wide receiver 2 spot should Tank Dell not be up to speed quite yet. Braylon Allen is a backup for Brees Hall, and he's had some flashes of potentially being a really good player, but just hasn't been healthy. Isaiah Davis again, another one. Dylan Sampson, Malik Davis, Chris Bell, Troy Franklin. Another one that I really quite like is Zachary Branch on the Atlanta Falcons. I don't really think there's a whole lot of competition in that room for him to maybe make the number 2 gig. Of course, the quarterback situation, I didn't really talk about it with Drake London, just because I think Drake London is going to make anyone look good. But the quarterback situation is a little hesitant. They've got Tua and they've got Michael Penix, and that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. But Zachary Branch is a guy who I think will be starting to rise up some of these boards going forward, and could definitely be a waiver wire guy in the future. So, any of those guys speaking to you at all? Keyshawn Boutte. All right, let's do it. Keyshawn Boutte. I really do think that is a solid pick if you can get it here. Unfortunately, I do think he's going to be rising through the draft boards going forward, and of course, your kicker again doesn't really matter. So we'll just write our kicker as Mr. Kicker, because that's all that is ever going to be. So I hope this has helped you a little bit prepare for your upcoming fantasy draft. And this is, similar to how I would operate if I were in your shoes. I think this is a very solid roster you've built here. Especially, I think the strength of your team is definitely the running backs. I think this is a very solid trio of running backs with Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, and Tony Pollard. And then you've got some upside guys in the wide receiver room as well. So, again, all of this could be very different for you in your live draft, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a preview of what might be possible. So, I thank you very much for watching. Goodbye for now.